this controversy, which I don't see as a controversy myself, since it seems like the rules were the same for both fighters. But Nick Diaz and his lawyer seem to be claiming that George St-Pierre had an unfair advantage in their title fight at UFC 159. What do you make of this?
It's a weird story. I don't agree with you in the sense that I feel like it is shady when the rules for title fights in general aren't being followed. And was that done to accommodate George St. Pierre? I mean, that one I find a little bit harder to swallow. Like, I find it hard to believe, GSP sort of conspiring behind the scenes with the Quebec Commission.
Right,
But
right.
by the same token, like, I think that, the fighters should play by the rules. They should all play by the same rules. And, if title fights, the rule is you're supposed to weigh in at a certain weight, you're not supposed to be over that weight. That's the rule. And, a commission, doing otherwise, I mean, that's just sort of dubious. I think if you were looking at this sort of thing happening in other sport, it would be a major story. I mean, there would be people asking all sorts of questions about what exactly was going on. Here, I think, people like GSP, and I think they aren't inclined to believe that he's, mixed up in something that's sort of untoward. So I think they're giving sort of him the benefit of the doubt in the whole thing. But I find the whole thing just weird. It doesn't smell right to me. And, I don't know who is sort of responsible for what ultimately happened, but I feel like there should be consequences, not in terms of like doing something about the fight, because GSP won the fight and that wasn't relevant to it, but in terms of the people involved in the Quebec Commission, I feel like that's something that should be looked into. If it was sort of someone that was sort of a rogue agent doing this, then I don't think they should be in that capacity anymore. And if it was someone, if it was the commission as a whole, I think, there ought to be questions asked about the competence of that commission and their ability to do the job that they're supposed to be doing, which is to treat every fighter the same. And, regardless of whether you're favoring one fighter over another, if you're treating two fighters different than everyone else, that isn't the same treatment.
Yeah, just to clarify for our listeners who may not know what the exact issue is, there's a video that circulated around on the internet that showed at the day of the weigh-ins, they went to Nick Diaz first, and maybe they went to GSP's camp first, I don't know, but the video shows them going to the Nick Diaz camp and saying that both fighters were being given basically a 0.9 pound weight allowance up to 170.9, and at that point, the decimal would be tossed out and they would be considered as weighing 170. So where I base my argument that it was an equanimous decision is that apparently that rule applied to both Diaz and GSP, that either one of them could have been up to 0.9 pounds over. Now, I do agree with you, that's not the rule for a title fight. It's supposed to be 170 for a title fight or under if you're fighting for a welterweight title. There's no half point allowance, there's no 0.2 allowance, there's no 0.9 allowance. And I will agree with Diaz's lawyer when he says that why would a scale have measurements in hundreds of grams if those measurements weren't a valid, ranking of weight? Why have that scale? Why not just have a scale that only goes from 1 pound to the next, and you either move it up to the next weight or move it down to the previous weight? So there is a case there, but I also feel like as bizarre and weird as it is, and I think weird is the word for it, you hit the nail on the head. I almost feel like if they were both given the exact same guideline, that 0.9 is fine, and it applied to both men, it doesn't favor either one.
Well, I mean, that's not necessarily true, because, like, just as like an example, like if you said, like, well, let's say in the NBA you had a team that was a very good 3-point shooting team, right? And they said before a game, hey, in this game, 3-point shots are actually going to count for 4 points for each team. Like, just because it's held to both guys doesn't mean that it's going to apply to both guys equally, right? Like, if the team that is a really good 3-point shooting team is going to have the advantage, even though the rule is applying equally to both guys. So hypothetically, in this sense, if George St-Pierre needed that extra pound and had said something to the commission, I don't think this happened, but if he had said, I'm having trouble making weight, it might be useful to have this extra pound, like, then that would favor him more, even though it is a rule that's being applied equally to both guys.
I think you have a point there.